The hour of convening having arrived, all members of the House will please report to the floor of the House and take seats. All members will report to the floor of the House. I'll ask the clerk to ring the bell. All members, we're about to take the morning roll call. All members, please take their seats. We are going to have the call of the roll. All members present will please vote green to signify their presence in the chamber, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. Doorkeepers will please close the doors and keep them closed. Well, good morning to everyone. We have a very, very busy morning. Chair intends to conduct the business of the House in orderly and prompt fashion, but we have a rules calendar. We have 5 groups of distinguished guests to recognize. We have a number of morning orders. So ask your cooperation. We're going to begin our day, as we do every day, with scripture reading and prayer by the chaplain, after which we will pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. Our chaplain this morning will be introduced by the gentleman from the 73rd House District, Chairman John Yates. Chairman Yates.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Normally the Speaker likes to have people from your home district, you know, but I'll tell you why we ended up with this very talented preacher today. He's the pastor of a lady Miss Brewer, who has worked for me in the legislatures for many years up here, and so it's her preacher today, and we're very happy to have chaplain of the day, Dr. Terry Johnson, the senior pastor at Independent Presbyterian Church of Savannah, where he has served since 1987. We'd please give a warm welcome to his wife, Emily. She's sitting up there. Dr. Johnson and his wife have 5 children: Drew, Sally, Abby, Ben, and Sam, who is a second lieutenant in the Marine Corps, currently serving in Kuwait. Terry is the author of several books and has held many positions in the ministry of the Presbyterian Church. As I said, I invited him because of the strong relationship here with the lady who I've known many years here in the legislature. So we're very happy to have Dr. Terry Johnson as our minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members of the House, and thank you, Representative Yates. I will speak and pray this morning as a Christian minister and duty-bound to speak from that perspective and from those convictions. We find in Romans chapter 13, the Apostle Paul speaks of the civil government in the most exalted of terms. He refers to it in verse 1 of chapter 13 as established by God, verse 4 as a minister of God, verse 6 as a servant of God. And then on the other hand, Jesus says, render to Caesar the things that are Caesar, and to God the things that are God, making it abundantly clear that the civil government and the civil magistrates are not God. They have a limited realm and a limited sphere. They have limited authority and limited competence. Samuel Johnson, a 18th century English man of letters, said, "How small of all that human hearts endure, that part which laws or kings can cause or cure." Let's say that again. How small of all that human hearts endure, that part which laws or kings can cause or cure. The civil government's capacity for good is limited. Its capacity for harm is vast. And the fundamental needs of the human race, it cannot touch. Jesus said, "I am the light of the world." What is our fundamental need? Our fundamental need is for light. The metaphor assumes that the world is a place of darkness. Darkness represents moral evil. Darkness, on the other hand, represents ignorance. It represents ethical confusion. Jesus says, "He who follows me shall not walk in the darkness, but shall have the light of life." Today we have exceeding difficulty in distinguishing right from wrong and good from evil, the moral from the immoral, the just from the unjust. And the consequence has been ruined lives strewn all across the fruited plain. And to us, Jesus emphatically, boldly declares that he is the light of the world. He is able to distinguish the valuable from that which is not valuable, the right from the wrong, the true from the erroneous, the just from the unjust. Jesus says, "I am the bread of life." What do we need? We need spiritual bread. Our souls are empty. They're hungry. They are thirsty. They are discontent. And we turn to the things of the world, and we find that nothing is able to satisfy. We turn to this person or to this commodity or to this honor or to this level of income, and we find that it's all superficial, it's all temporary, it's all external. It doesn't address the fundamental human needs. And Jesus employs this other metaphor, "I am the bread of life," and in doing so profoundly identifying the human condition, which is one in which there is hunger in the soul, thirst in the soul. Our souls are needy. Our souls are empty. And the reason is that we were not made for this world. We were made to know God. We were meant to walk with God in the cool of the garden. We were meant to have fellowship with God. And we are estranged from him and alienated from him. And Jesus has the audacity to say that he is the bread of life. He is able to pardon our sins and reconcile us to our Maker so that we can once more know him and satisfy the hunger of the soul and quench the thirst of the soul, that which no created thing has the capacity to do. Jesus boldly declares that he is able to do, bringing satisfaction and fulfillment to human souls. "He who comes to me," he says, "shall not hunger. He who believes in me shall never thirst." It was Augustine, one of the great church fathers back in the 4th century AD, who famously said that our hearts are restless until they find their rest in Thee, O God. Jesus says, "Come unto me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am gentle and humble of heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." This means that for the civil government, the goals are modest. They are temporal, they're external, physical, having to do with justice in this world and the protection of property and the protection of the innocent and due process. As Jesus is alone able to deal with that which is eternal and internal and spiritual and of everlasting consequence. The civil government is established by God, a minister of God, and a servant of God. But Jesus says, "Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar, and to God the things that are God's." Caesar is not God. Its realm is limited, its competence is limited, its capacity is limited. And Jesus alone is able to address the true, deep needs of the human condition as we pray together. Our Father in heaven, whose name is holy, whose power is unlimited, whose wisdom is infinite, whose mercy is renewed each morning, and whose faithfulness is great, we humbly bow before you, the great sovereign of heaven and earth, the King of kings and Lord of lords, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. It is by your hand that nations rise and fall. It is by your will that kings reign and are removed. You have established the civil government, granting to it the sword that it might maintain justice, even calling it a minister and servant of God for our good. We give you thanks, O Lord, that our lot has been cast in this great land, a nation characterized by limited government, the rule of law, the freedoms of religion, assembly, press, and speech, the right to bear arms, the right to trial by jury of our peers, and the right to vote and elect our leaders. We thank you, O Lord, for our material prosperity, for the roofs over our heads and the food on our table and the clothes on our backs. We are grateful for our military and policing power that protects our life, liberty, and prosperity. We pray, O Lord, for our state representatives. Grant them discernment, grant them prudence. Oh, that they might govern justly and wisely. Let them govern so as to honor you, O God, and so as to preserve the people of Georgia. And finally, we pray for the well-being of our fair state, for peace, for the safety of our citizens, for a receding tide of crime, for elevated standards of public decency and morality, for racial and ethnic harmony, and for thriving public and private institutions. These things we ask and plead through Christ Jesus our Lord. Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Excuse me.
Doorkeepers will unlock the doors. Chair recognizes the chairman of the Committee on Information and Audits, Chairman Chokas.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Information and Audits has read the journals of the previous legislative day and have found them to be correct.
Chairman Chokas, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, reports that the journal of the previous legislative day has been read and found to be correct. Is there any objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. The clerk will read the resolution establishing the order of business for the day.
Mr. Burns, letter 59 moves the following be established: the order of business during the first part of the period, unanimous consents. Introduction of bills and resolutions, first reading and reference files, bills and resolutions, second reading of bills and resolutions, report of standing committees, first reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions, morning orders.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution establishing the order of business for the day? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. First reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 882 by Representative Taylor of the 173rd, Smith the 134th, Atwood the 179th, Meadows the 5th, Brockway the 102nd, and others. Bill being entitled an act to amend Chapter 3 of Title 33 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to authorization and general requirements for the transaction of insurance.
Insurance.
House Bill 883 by Representative Taylor, 173rd, Smith the 134th, Atwood of the 179th, Meadows of the 5th, Brockway the 102nd, and others. Bill be entitled an act to amend Chapter 37 of Title 33 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to insurers' rehabilitation and liquidation.
Insurance.
House Bill 884 by Representative Taylor, 173rd, Atwood the 179th, Smith the 134th, Meadows of the 5th, Brockway the 102nd, and others. Bill be entitled an act to amend Chapter 56 of Title 33 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to risk-based capital levels.
Insurance.
House Bill 885 by Representative Jones, the 47th, Price the 48th, Beskin the 54th, Rathensberger the 50th, Willard the 51st, and others. A bill be entitled an act to amend Chapter 3, Title 31 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to county boards of health.
Governmental affairs.
House Bill 886 by Representative Cooper the 43rd, Martin of the 49th, Smith the 134th, and Rogers the 29th. Bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 26-4-60, the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to grounds for suspension, revocation, or refusal to grant pharmacy licenses.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 887 by Representative Administration of the 104th, Ballinger the 23rd, Quick of the 117th, Caldwell the 131st, Abrams of the 89th, and others. Bill be entitled an act to amend Article 3 and 4 of Chapter 11 and of Title 15 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to dependency proceedings and termination of parental rights.
Juvenile Justice.
House Bill 888 by Representative Caldwell, the 131st. Bill be entitled an act to transfer probation and intake services to the Juvenile Court of Upson County, the Georgia Department of Juvenile Justice.
Intragovernmental coordination.
House Bill 889 by Representative Kidd of the 145th. A bill be entitled an act to amend Part 4 of Article 1 of Chapter 18 and Title 43 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the operation of funeral establishments and crematories.
Regulated industries.
House Bill 890 by Representative Werkheiser, the 157th. A bill being entitled an act to amend an act providing for the election of members of the Board of Education of Tottenham County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
The Senate Bill 193 by Senator Bethel of the 54th, Stone of the 23rd, Kennedy the 18th, Parent of the 42nd, Utterman of the 45th, and others. Bill be entitled an act to amend Code Section 16-5-23.1 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to battery.
Judiciary non-civil.
Senate Bill 243 by the Senators Hill of the 4th and Schaefer of the 48th. A bill be entitled an act to amend Chapter 23 of Title 47 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the Georgia Judicial Retirement System.
Retirement.
That completes first readers.
Second reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 879 by Representative Taylor of the 79th, a bill relating to elementary, secondary educational programs. House Bill 880 by Representative Spencer of the 180th, a bill to amend an act providing a new charter for the city of St. Mary's, Georgia. House Bill 881 by Representative Reeves of the 34th, a bill relating to adoption. Senate Bill 279 by Senator Harper of the 7th, a bill relating to unemployment and training of peace officers. 3 second readers.
Reports of standing committees. The clerk will read.
Representative Tom McCall, the 33rd District Chairman of the Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Agriculture and Consumer Affairs has had under consideration the following bill to the House and has instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 876 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Tom McCall, Chairman. Representative David Knight of the 130th District Chairman on the Committee on Game, Fish, and Parks submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Game, Fish, and Parks has had under consideration the following bills of the House and has instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. HB 840 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative David Knight, Chairman. Representative Sharon Cooper, the 43rd District Chairman on the Committee on Health and Human Services, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Health and Human Services had under consideration the following bills of the House and has instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 34 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 853 do pass by committee substitute. House Bill 813 do pass by committee substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Sharon Cooper, Chairman. Representative Rogers, the 29th District Chairman on the Committee on Higher Education, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Higher Education has had under consideration the following bills of the House and has instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 739 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Carl Rogers, Chairman. Representative Smith, the 134th District Chairman on the Committee on Insurance, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Insurance has had under consideration the following bills of the House. It has instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendations. House Bill 193 do pass by substitute. House Bill 866 do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Richard Smith, Chairman. Representative Maxwell, the 17th District Chairman on the Committee on Regulated Industries, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Regulated Industries has had under consideration the following bill of the House. It has instructed me to report the same back to the House with the following recommendation. House Bill 775 do pass by substitute. Respectfully submitted, Representative Howard Maxwell, Chairman. That completes the reading of the reports of standing committees.
This House will come to order. Everyone has a desk. Chair's going to ask that you find those at this time unless you have pressing, urgent business, which can be taken to the anterooms. We're about to go on to morning orders. If you have signed up for a morning order, make your way to the front of the chamber. If you have signed up for a morning order, Chair recognizes for a morning order Representative Spencer, Representative Al Williams, Chairman Wilkinson, Representative Atwood, Representative Corbett, and Representative Jones. Please give attention to the members in the well on a morning order.
Good morning, everyone. On February the 3rd, 1971, in the farthest remote southeast corner of the state of Georgia, a concussion rolled through the towns Pine Woods of Camden County from the Morton Thiokol munitions factory. At the Morton Thiokol factory, they were charged by the U.S. Army to manufacture flares for the use in Vietnam. Those flares were to be used to identify enemy troop movement at night. The flares were made to illuminate, and they were composed of sodium nitrate and brilliant burning magnesium. These materials were highly flammable and explosive. And I'm going to read this brief passage from the New York Times. Mr. Artez was a 53-year-old quality control worker at the plant for 3 years, and he oftentimes would grab a water hose to put the fire out from time to time, but almost immediately realized that day that the fire was out of control. He had turned to run, and the fire burned through the door of the cure room where 8,000 pounds of loose illuminants were stored, along with 1,400 pounds of ignition pellets, 56,000 flares that were already assembled, and about 100 pounds of material. Just as Mr. Artez stepped through the doorway, the building exploded. Some minutes later, he woke up in a ditch across the road from the building. Magnesium had burned away the bone on his right arm and much of his calf on his left leg. His left eardrum was ruptured, and his left foot and leg were shattered. And across the road, 23 people were already dead, and dozens more were trying to run away from the fire followed by the explosion. Parts of bodies hung in the trees hundreds of feet away. One worker was blown with such force into a metal fence that he was melted into it. Today, we remember the survivors and the 29 people who perished that day, who were serving their country and contributing to the nation's war effort in Vietnam. And I'd like to turn over the mic to Representative Albion.
Thank you. That day is in the memory of everyone from that area. I remember the day 29 people died. Unfortunately, they were working in many times low-paying jobs, very little safety observation. They were subsequently sued. The lead attorney was a distinguished member of this House, Representative Bobby Hill from Savannah, and because of that lawsuit, many of the safety rules we have in place now were placed. They were poor people that were kind of not looked at, and so we today just have memories for them.
Will you stand with me in a moment of silence? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Good job. Chair recognizes Representative Trammell for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Every 67 seconds, someone in the United States develops Alzheimer's disease. By 2050, someone in the United States will develop the disease every 33 seconds. This degenerative brain disease kills cells and tissues in the brain, affecting an individual's ability to remember, think, and plan. As the disease advances, brain shrinks dramatically due to cell death, causing individuals to lose their ability to communicate, recognize family and friends, and care for themselves. Currently, there is no way to prevent, cure, or even slow Alzheimer's. According to statistics from the Alzheimer's Association, 47 million people worldwide are living with the disease, including 5.3 million Americans. This is not just a disease that affects seniors, 200,000 Americans under the age of 65. According to statistical forecasts from the Alzheimer's Association, within the next 10 years, 19 states, including Georgia, will see a 40% growth in the number of people diagnosed with Alzheimer's. By 2050, up to 16 million Americans will be diagnosed with this incurable disease. In addition to the toll the disease takes on the individual suffering from Alzheimer's, the disease exacts a heavy mental, emotional, financial, and often physical toll on caregivers and families. The financial costs of caring for those with Alzheimer's are staggering. In 2015, caring for Alzheimer's and other dementia-related patients in the United States will cost an estimated $226 billion. The amount spent by $153 billion of which will come from Medicare and Medicaid. The amount spent by Medicare represents nearly 1 in every $5 of Medicare spending. While there are currently no disease-modifying treatments for Alzheimer's, if a treatment became available by 2025 that delayed the onset of Alzheimer's disease for 5 years, the savings would be seen almost immediately. According to one economic model, over the first 5 years after such a treatment's availability, Medicare and Medicaid spending would be lowered by $121 billion. According to Alzheimer's Association projections, an Alzheimer's treatment that became available in that time frame by 2025 would mean that in 2050, 5.7 million fewer Americans would be living with Alzheimer's. Today was going to be Alzheimer's Disease Day, Awareness Day at the Capitol, but due to inclement weather, they have canceled. But in each one of our districts, there are families, there are individuals who are suffering with this disease, and there are caregivers who are stressed and strained to their last wit. When you're contacted by an Alzheimer advocate, please give them a few minutes of your time. They are some of the most compassionate people and have been down a very, very difficult road. Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the House, for allowing me to share. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Coach Williams for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. Will the CAB delegation come down and join me, please? Today it's an honor for me to have a group, for us to have a group here, an active group from the Lew Walker, the late Lew Walker, late Commissioner Lew Walker Center, seniors of the CAB. I know I'm going to get in trouble by name dropping, but in the gallery I have my lovely wife, Ruby Talbot Williams. Honey, would you stand up? Yeah, I would get in trouble if I don't. I want to thank my administrative aides, Tammy Warren and Jennifer Clark. Also, one of my staff members who's a retired principal, Leroy Jenkins, he's in the back. And also another aide of mine, Jamie White. Betty Davis, who is the director of the center, she's up there. And I want you all, if you would, they will be in room 230 in a few minutes. If you would like to, you can come down and meet some of them. But would you all stand up, the active seniors from DeKalb County? Would you please stand up? And let's give them a warm welcome to their capital. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Nimmer and Representative Chuck Williams for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I want to draw your attention to a couple of items on your desk today. In being consistent with last year, we provided each one of you with another tree cookie. If you'll notice, your cookie's a little bit larger this year. Last year, I think everybody said they were going to use them, put coffee mugs on. You can set your dinner plate on this one. But also, I want, more importantly, for you to look at the little handout dealing with forestry, a $28.9 billion a year impact on this state. And today is Forestry Day at the Capitol. Industry professionals from across this state are here today. I hope they take time and that you take time to interact with your representative from the forest industry. And this afternoon, the Georgia Forestry Association would like for everyone to take a moment to come down to the Blue Room down at the depot between 5 and 7. And they'd like to host you with a light reception down there. And take time to educate yourself on the importance of our timber industry in Georgia.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. In addition to visiting with our friends from forestry at the depot this afternoon, the UGA College of Agricultural and Environmental Sciences is hosting a reception at the same time in the freight room. So you can do a 2-for-1. You can learn a little bit more about what's going on with teaching, research, and extension in ag and natural resources at UGA. So go see our ag and our forestry friends. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Bentley for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning, colleagues. I stand before you this morning to bring a moment in Black history. Introducing Rebecca Lee Crumpler. Rebecca Lee Crumpler challenged the prejudice that prevented African Americans from pursuing careers in medicine to become the first African American woman in the United States to earn an MD degree. Dr. Crumpler practiced in Boston for a short while before moving to Richland, Virginia after the Civil War ended in 1865. A remarkable mark of her achievements as a physician and medical writer in a time when very few African Americans were able to gain admittance to medical college. Her book is one of the very first medical publications by an African American. Again, Dr. Rebecca Lee Crumpler, first African American woman to earn a medical degree. And thank you for allowing me to share this moment in Black history. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Chairman Amy Carter for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I come before you this morning, members, to remind you that today is State YMCA Day in the Capitol. I want to just mention to you a few facts that you may not know. The after-school child care through prime time that's offered by the YMCA serves over 130,000 children per day. And collectively, it is the nation's largest child care provider. The YMCAs offer health fairs, senior activities. We have fitness centers that focus on health and nutrition. Also, did you know that no one is turned away for an inability to pay? And I'll also note that just recently, with 75 YMCAs across Georgia, there's a reciprocation agreement in play now. So if you belong to any YMCA around the state, you may go to any other one, work out, use the services. It's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for all YMCA members. We have YMCA CEOs and affiliated members up in the gallery. We need to recognize them now. If you will, please stand. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Beverly for a morning order. He's joined by Representative Peak, Chairman Hatchett, Chairman Epps, Representative Dickey, and Representative Randall. I was saving the best for last.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On yesterday, the Macon community lost a very important young man named Jabri Bryant. Jabri was a 23-year-old business graduate student at Mercer University, a point guard for the team. He played in the upset game where Mercer upset Duke a few years ago in the tournament. And yesterday, he was shot in the head at a convenience store. A senseless act of violence that ripped through our community. And today, he is survived by a young son, 2 years old, a mother, Karen, and a father, Tyrone. And we lost an important member of our community. And so today we stand here to honor his legacy, but to really be sober-minded about how we treat one another. These senseless acts of violence need to stop. So I would ask that you would stand for a moment of silence. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representatives Doreen Carter and Representative Kaiser for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning. I wanted to recognize that we have a lot of blue in the chamber today, and I know a lot of green. And so tomorrow I'm hoping that we have a sea of red. Friday is, Heart Disease and Stroke Day, and it's National Wear Red for Heart Disease. It's actually Friday, but since we won't be here, Representative Carter and I are asking that everyone wear red tomorrow. And I also wanted to ask you to wear red in honor of Doreen Carter. I know that Representative Carter mentioned something a couple of days ago about her situation last year, but Doreen Carter didn't quite tell you just how serious her situation was last year. Doreen had some pain and had a total blockage and had a heart attack last year, and so we're lucky to have her standing beside me today. So I hope that everyone will, in honor of National Heart Disease Day and Representative Doreen Carter, wear red, and that includes the men in the chamber as well. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman Dempsey for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning. To my members, I want to bring to you a resolution today that is going to honor Georgia's Family Connection. Chairman England and I did this resolution together, and there are already some signatures on it. This is such an important organization that goes way beyond the reach of what I think that government can do to help our children and families. In the early 1990s, the conditions for children and families in Georgia were among the worst in the nation. Let me say that again. Among the worst in the nation, according to the Annie E. Casey Foundation's Kid Counts report. We have made great progress. In '91, Governor Zell Miller and the Georgia General Assembly decided to put together the Georgia Family Connection. It was established and has been supported with bipartisan support from every governor and every General Assembly since. This is their 25th year. It's so important. They are the only organization of their kind in the whole nation in 159 counties, in each and every one of our communities that are making gigantic differences to help children and families survive and thrive. I'm going to have this resolution on my desk, and I would ask that any, and actually each of you, try your best to come by and sign it, and that we recognize their great effort in this year. Thank you so much.
All right, the House will come to order. We're going to recognize some very distinguished guests we have with us. I'm going to ask the clerk to read the caption to House Resolution 1163.
House Resolution 1163 by Representative Wilkinson of the 52nd, Taylor the 79th, Abrams of the 89th, Smyre the 135th, Holcomb of the 81st, and others. A resolution recognizing the United Service Organizations on the occasion of its 75th anniversary and for other purposes.
Chair recognizes Chairman Wilkinson for an invite resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, fellow members of the House, tomorrow marks the 75th anniversary of the USO. If you've been in the military, you've ever had a family member in the military, you know just how special USO is to those in uniform and their families. And we have, in the USO Council of Georgia, the top council in the United States repeatedly. It's my great pleasure to bring to you Major General Retired Tom Wessels, who is our current chair of the USO. Please join me in welcoming General Wessels.
Thank you, Speaker, for the invitation. Thank you, Chairman Wilkinson, for your opening remarks, but also 33 years of service to the USO Council of Georgia. I'm accompanied today by the longest-serving USO executive in the country, our CEO here in Georgia, Mary Lou Austin. Beside her is one of our Marines, Gunny Sergeant Davis. Next to him is one of the volunteers and board members, Betty Rose Bowers. And also one of our outstanding board members and chair-elect, Attorney Susan Cahoon. Protecting you in the gallery is also Sergeant Major Watson in the first row in the gallery. We are here today to thank Governor Deal for the proclamation and the Georgia House of Representatives for the support all around the state. The mission of the USO is to strengthen America's military by connecting them with their family, their home, and their countries during their years of dedicated service. As Joe mentioned, for 75 years, the USO has been the nation's leading organization to serve men and women in the United States military and their families throughout their time in uniform, from the moment they join to their assignments and deployments, and as they transition back into the communities in Georgia and around the world. The USO is always by their side. Today's USO continuously adapts to the needs of our men and women in uniform and their families, so they can focus on a very important mission. We operate USO centers here in Georgia at the airport, our headquarters. At Savannah, we have an operation, and at Robins Air Force Base. We have over 900 volunteers who have given 33,000 hours of service each year to the men and women in the uniform and their families. In this 75th year, we are obviously going to be celebrating throughout the states. We'll have a Braves event, we'll have an Aquarian event, we'll have a Veterans Day festivities, all this good stuff to continue to remind our country the service of the men and women in uniform. The USO is not part of the federal government. It is a congressionally chartered private organization, and the USO relies on individuals, organizations, and corporations to support its activities and is powered by all those 900 plus volunteers. Now, you yourself may not have served in the military, but you may have supported, as we heard today, the Young Men's Christian Association, the Young Women's Christian Association, the National Catholic Community Services Organization, the National Travelers Aid Association, or the National Jewish Welfare Board. Back in 1941, President Roosevelt put those organizations together and said, we need to have an organization to support the men and women in the military and their families. That was during World War II. 75 years later, here we are. By providing support to our servicemen and women as they perform the most challenging duties around the world, our credo is always by their side. We in Georgia appreciate and recognize the support that your organization and the entire state give to our USO services. We salute you. God bless.
Chair is proud to recognize on the floor of this House a former member, the former chair of the Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee, and my former seatmate, former Representative Tim Bearden. Representative Bearden. Clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 1165.
House Resolution 1165 by Representative Jones of the 47th, Ramsey the 72nd, Maxwell the 17th, Coleman of the 97th, Golick the 40th, and others. A resolution commending Georgia State University and recognizing February 3rd, 2016 as Georgia State University Day at the state capitol and for other purposes.
Chair recognizes the Speaker Pro Tem of this House for an invite resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to invite all members that graduated from Georgia State University, either undergraduate or graduate, to please come up and join us. It's my honor to recognize Georgia State Day today, our capital university and one closest to us here. President Mark Becker is in his 8th year leading Georgia State University, which has a $1.5 billion economic impact to this entire state. I did want to mention, many of you may not be aware that they've completed their year-long process of consolidating with Georgia Perimeter College, and it is now the largest public university in Georgia, one of the largest in the country, with 53,000 students. Georgia State was recently named one of the 5th most innovative universities in the nation by U.S. News and World Report. It is my honor to introduce now President Becker. Thank you, President Becker.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Speaker Pro Tem Jones. It's an honor and a privilege to be here at Georgia State University Day at the Capitol. It's a tremendous responsibility that you place on us because you trust in our university through the appropriations process, support for education and capital projects. So I want you to know on behalf of the more than 50,000 students as well as the more than 4,000 employees at Georgia State University that we not only appreciate the support you provide, but we deeply appreciate the difference you're making in the lives of thousands and thousands, actually tens of thousands of Georgians every day. And you should rest assured and know that we work every day to do the very best we can for the state of Georgia. We're mindful of the trust and the responsibility you place in us, and we will do everything we can to make this great state only get better day in and day out, year after year. Now, as the Speaker Pro Tem Jones said, the consolidation of the University System Board of Regents has been completed. We're now more than 50,000 students strong, with campuses spread throughout the metro. The real reason for doing this consolidation is because it will benefit students. Under Chancellor Huckabee's leadership at the University System of Georgia, he's undertaken a number of consolidations, and this, like all others, is to do the right thing for our students. The benefits include being able to have an access and success mission like no other in the nation. Georgia State has been nationally recognized again and again over the past years for our success in helping students stay on track to graduation in a timely and efficient way. And in addition, for those 20,000 students who study at Perimeter College, we now have a seamless admission and transfer process so they can start their educations on a Perimeter campus and graduate with a baccalaureate degree here in the great city of Atlanta. I am joined today by my wife, Laura Voisinet, and 3 students from Georgia State University. Mr. Sebastian Parra, President of the Student Government Association at Georgia State University, Ms. Sri Raja Sakaran, who's actually the student leader in Perimeter College on the Newton campus and played an instrumental role in the Consolidation Implementation Committee. So we're indebted to Sri for all that she's done to help this consolidation be successful. And then Mr. Blake Rios next to Sri. Blake was actually on his way to being a national wakeboarding champion when an injury to his foot actually set his professional ambitions in that sport and competition aside. So like so many students, when thrown a curveball, he had to hit it. And for him, that was to come to Perimeter College and create a new plan for his life. Blake is pursuing a business and risk management career, Sri mathematics and computer science, and we look forward to their continued success as the beginning success stories of this consolidation, and to be among the 50,000 students who, because they get an education supported by you, are going to be productive, strong citizens for this great state. So thank you very much.
Clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 1188.
House Resolution 1188 by Representative Carter, the 175th Abrams, the 89th Hardin, the 148th England, the 116th, and Taylor, the 173rd. A resolution recognizing and commending the state YMCA of Georgia and its Center for Civic Engagement and Y Club programs, which sponsor youth assembly among other programs that cultivate youth civic engagement, and recognizing the important work that the YMCA does in communities across Georgia and for other purposes.
Chair recognizes Chairman Carter for an invite resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I gave you a little preview about the YMCA earlier, the state YMCA, and now I'm going to take a moment and spotlight something very dear to my heart that goes along with the state YMCA. It's a part of the state YMCA, and that is the State Youth Assembly. The YMCA does so many things, which I said earlier in the morning order, but it also runs numbers of teen programs. Not only is Youth Assembly one of those, but also the Georgia United Nations Assembly, the Washington Seminar, Y clubs all over the state, youth training conferences, the Civic Youth Day. You can hear, though, that the YMCA is doing such a great job of civic engagement, which is what each of us wishes that we had more involved in today. Regarding Youth Assembly, though, this is the program where the students convene here in our state capitol for 3 days in November to run state government in a model legislature. Students serve as legislators, lobbyists, members of the press, members of the judiciary, and officers. I have a little slideshow. Brent is coming. Oh, it just finished? Oh, sorry. I did want to recognize a few people, though, in the slideshow, because our very own Rick Jaspers is one of those peeking down from the gallery. Is it running again? There it is. It's not running. Brent, it's not on the screen. Was it on the screen before? That would be my child. Y'all, this is such an amazing experience. That's Camille up on the right. Camille is here on, she's my page today, and she's also one of my students at Lowndes High School. But look for number 28, Camille, who also went through this amazing experience. But this is our clerk, Ben Murray. He's from Berrien County with our very own clerk, but our student clerk with Bill. Just pictures from this amazing experience that I wanted to highlight to you. But these students write their own bills, and they present them before the youth and decide whether or not to pass those bills or not. My own son had what I consider to be an awful bill to allow 15-year-olds to drive by themselves. And I told him I would never, ever vote to allow that bill to come out, but it did pass the House, sadly. Anyway, I'm going to take a moment now to bring up Jackson Mitchell, our youth governor of the 71st. He's from Madison, Georgia.
Good morning. I'm Jackson Mitchell, and I served as youth governor for the 71st Youth Assembly program sponsored by the state YMCA of Georgia. There's a group from several associations in the YMCA movement here in Georgia joining us in the gallery. If those here with the YMCA associations will please stand and be recognized. Again. The YMCA movement serves many roles in local communities and in the state of Georgia as a whole. While the state YMCA focuses on teaching middle and high school students about how government works, community YMCA associations focus on a number of programs from serving and protecting children, one of Georgia's most valuable assets, to healthy living programs like Coach Approach and Youth Fit for Life. It's important to highlight also that the YMCA is the largest child care provider in the state, also providing after-school programs and senior activities. Those are just a few of the great initiatives that the Y movement brings to residents of Georgia. Today, I stand before you in a place that's very familiar to me. Just last November, I joined over 600 of my peers from the four corners of the state in this model legislative program. As of the fall of 2015, more than 1/3 of the voting electorate pool in the United States are part of the millennial generation. It's vital that those falling in this demographic not only participate in the process, but become well-informed voters and familiar with the function and process of government as well. And I'm here to tell you that programs like Youth Assembly are ensuring this by teaching students like myself that democracy is not just a spectator sport. First, I would like to thank you all for the privilege and opportunities to have access to such a wonderful place. There's no better place to learn about how Georgia's government works than where it actually takes place. Second, many of you financially support the program through the Sponsor Your Seat campaigns. Words cannot begin to express our appreciation for your vote of confidence and investment in our programs. In fact, you'll have an opportunity to once again make such an investment in the next few days, and I hope that you'll respond generously. Your gift allows us to get more students in the Capitol to learn about how great our government works. This year at the 71st Youth Assembly, legislation introduced and debated in these halls ranged from the abolishment of state income tax to the increased supplemental funding for Level 1 trauma centers, among many other proposed bills. This year marked the 71st Youth Assembly, and in all these years, tens of thousands of Georgia, some former Georgia governors, sitting U.S. senators, college and university presidents, and several members of this very chamber were able to participate in Youth Assembly's great offerings. Your investment and support in the continuing of the state YMCA of Georgia will be vital to the success of both Georgia and of our nation's future as we seek to inspire and instill a passion of service and engaged citizenship in Georgia's teens for years to come. Thank you for your leadership support. May God bless each of you, and may God continue to bless this great state of Georgia. Thank you.
Clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 1154.
House Resolution 1154.
House will be in order.
House Resolution 1154 by Representative Smith of the 134th, Jaspers of the 11th, Burkle of the 155th, England of the 116th, McCall of the 33rd, and others. A resolution recognizing February 3rd, 2016 as 4-H Day at the State Capitol and for other purposes.
Chair recognizes Chairman Jaspers for an invite resolution.
Today is 4-H Day, and if you notice, I've got on my green tie, and Chairman England has on his pretty green coat, and you've got some nice, great treats from Georgia 4-H, from Rock Eagle, the cheese straws. You know, 4-H has been a big part of my life and Chairman Richard Smith's as we worked in the Extension Service, and we appreciate all the other people who work with. We're here to honor 21 project winners and state winners, and state officers here also. And if you'll just wave at us from up there in the balcony, we'll give you a hand as we get ready to hear from our state president and from 4-H. And we appreciate Ben Lord for being here from Ben Hill County, and I'll turn it over to him. Thank you, Ben.
Speaker Ralston and ladies and gentlemen of the House of Representatives, good morning. I am Ben Lord from Ben Hill County and president of Georgia 4-H. I am honored to represent more than 175,000 Georgia 4-Hers, including our pages and honorees at the Capitol. 4-Hers participate in livestock judging, shooting sports, performing arts, and present demonstrations in projects such as food preservation, photography, health, and workforce development. 4-H is inclusive of youth from all different backgrounds, including different races, ethnicities, and socioeconomic statuses, as well as youth from cities, small towns, and rural areas. This diversity is one of the things that makes Georgia 4-H great. 4-H youth encourage their peers and make sure everyone feels valued and accepted. One 4-H member posted on Facebook that he never thought he would compete in a speech competition. With encouragement from his county agent, he made a presentation about photography. After the competition, he said, "When I placed second in my category, I was overwhelmed and I felt all my baggage going away. I finally won my battle against autism." Georgia 4-H produces strong, confident leaders. In fact, 7 Georgia alumni are currently serving as college student government presidents. John L. Simpson, University of Georgia SGA president, said, "Without the public speaking and professional skills gained in 4-H, I would not have been able to accomplish all that I have in college." These same skills are being instilled in 4-H youth across the state of Georgia each year. Thank you for supporting county extension agents who are influencing and impacting Georgia youth. We are also grateful for your support of the Rock Eagle 4-H Center Cabin Replacement Project. Your continued support of the construction of new cabins is critical to the success of Georgia 4-H. Georgia 4-H is growing the next generation of citizen leaders. On behalf of the University of Georgia College of Agricultural and Environmental Sciences, Cooperative Extension, and 4-H, our state's largest youth leadership organization, we thank you for your service.
Clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 1127.
House Resolution 1127 by Representative Green in the 151st, Elam of the 153rd, and Dukes in the 154th. A resolution recognizing February 3rd, 2016 as Albany-Doherty County Day at the state capitol and commending the Albany Area Chamber of Commerce and for other purposes.
Chair recognizes Chairman Gerald Green for an invite resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen of the House. Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Speaker, and to my colleagues and the guests here at the Capitol. It is an honor to bring you the Albany-Doherty delegation. And on behalf of Representative Dukes, Representative Elam, and our next-door neighbor, Ed Reinders, we are so happy to bring the group to you. I would like to introduce to you Barbara Rivera Holmes, who is our president of our Albany Chamber. Barbara, if you'll raise your hand. The Honorable Dorothy Hubbard, who is the mayor of Albany. The Honorable Chris Cohilas is the Doherty County Commission chair. Justin Strickland, president of the Economic Development Group. And Ed Newsom is our new chamber chair. And help me welcome the individuals who have accompanied them from Albany and Doherty County. They are in the balcony there, and we'd like to give them a hand. The Albany-Doherty County is noted as the Good Life City, and we think just a great place to live. Our cultural and historical past gives us a sense of direction. Our schools and higher learning institutions such as Albany State University, Darton College, and Albany Technical College are a great asset to our community and the surrounding region. Come and visit the city and the county. We have lots of things to show you. This is the city where Ray Charles was born. And see our Albany Civil Rights Institution, our Freedom House, our Veterans Park, and the Vietnam Memorial Park. Walk the banks of the Flint River and enjoy the beauty and the serenity of our countryside. And remember, we as individuals in South Georgia are working together to make a better place for our citizens. And now I'd like to call on the chairman of the County Commission, Chris Cohilas, to say a few words.
Thank you, Representative Green. Thank you, Speaker Alston, for having this opportunity and providing us with this opportunity to come and visit you, and thank you for all of the hard work that you do. The city and the county, in Dougherty County, the city of Albany, and in the county are truly working together to collaborate with our economic partners, both locally and on the state level. We've instituted some significant improvements in our community with the adoption of career academies and many other economic projects that we could not have carried out without the support of our state partners. We thank you for that and appreciate the time that we have to come here and be before you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
House will come to order. House will come to order. Chair has the great pleasure of introducing the doctor of the day today. She is not a constituent. She does not live in my district, but she is one of my doctors. And I have learned to appreciate her over the past few months very, very much. Dr. Laura Garvey graduated from the University of Virginia as an Eccles Scholar with a Bachelor of Science degree in biology. She received her medical degree from the University of California at Los Angeles School of Medicine. She completed her residency in general surgery and her fellowship in vascular surgery at the University of Pittsburgh. She is currently board certified in both general and vascular surgery. She started her vascular surgery practice in 2001 with Chattahoochee Surgical Group in Cumming. In 2006, she founded the Vein Center of North Georgia in Alpharetta. I can't pronounce some of the things that she specializes in, but she is an outstanding vascular surgeon, I know. So in her spare time, she raises 3 busy boys. They're 12, 13, and 15. She lives in Marietta and is married to Dr. Charles Chaw, who is a spine surgeon, and he practices in Cartersville. So it's my great pleasure to introduce to you at this time Dr. Laura Garvey.
I'd like to thank the speaker for inviting me to be here today. I feel very fortunate that I'm able to come and help out and be Doctor of the Day. If anyone feels under the weather, please come see me. As a resident of Georgia for the past 15 years, I'd like to thank all the legislators for their service to our great state. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's get a picture. We have a rules calendar. House will come to order. We're going to the rules calendar. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 402, House Bill 402.
House Bill 402 by Representative Lumsden of the 12th, England of the 116th, Broderick of the 4th, Coleman of the 97th, and others to amend Chapter 9 of Title 33 and Chapter 9 of Title 34 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the regulation of insurance rates and workers' compensation. This bill has been assigned to the Committee on Industry and Labor. The committee recommends that this do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Lumsden to present the bill.
Good morning, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. I bring to you House Bill 402, a bill that deals with work-based learning, workforce development, and workers' compensation. Work-based learning, as you may be aware, is the apprenticeship program that is conducted in our K-12 public schools. The law governing the operation of this program was written in the 1980s and was updated 2 years ago with the passage of House Bill 766, which I authored. While working on that bill, it became apparent that the program, while one of the best in the nation, has some issues that need to be addressed. In order for any apprenticeship program to be successful, there must be businesses that are willing to partner with the program and offer work opportunities to the student. The problem facing the program is that many potential business partners are reluctant to permit 16 and 17-year-olds into their workplace because of workers' comp concerns. I, along with many members of my committee, interviewed a number of potential business partners to see what could be done to encourage their participation. House Bill 402 is the result of their feedback and much input and support from the Insurance Commissioner's Office, the Department of Education, the Lieutenant Governor's Office, the Department of Labor, and the Workers' Comp Advisory Group. House Bill 402, which is modeled after the Drug-Free Workplace Act, provides for a discount of up to 5% on workers' comp premiums for those businesses which will partner with our work-based learning program and provide work placement for our 16 and 17-year-old program participants. The discount is incremental depending on the number of placements. The discount is voluntary on the part of the insurer. The discount has a cap, and the discount requires certification by the Department of Education to the Department of Insurance. That, in short, is the bill. That is the purpose and the function of the bill. And with that, I will stand for questions, Mr. Speaker.
You yield for questions?
I yield.
Chair recognizes Chairman Welch to your left for a question.
Does the representative yield?
I yield.
Thank you, Representative. Just to alleviate the concerns of my colleague, Chairman Weldon, I want to be certain that this bill does not contain any fees which might be characterized as tacking on.
It does not contain any fees.
I think the chairman needs to be present and voice his own concerns rather than mailing them in. You don't appear to have any further questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd appreciate your support. With that, I yield the will.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Another member has signed up to speak on the bill. Chair recognizes Representative Teasley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just wanted to come and add my support for House Bill 402 and thank Representative Lumsden for bringing this bill. I spent 9 years mentoring teenagers, youth ministry and other capacities, and now have 3 teenagers of my own. So I understand the importance of instilling a strong work ethic and the value of and the benefits of a job. I believe this bill will be helpful and a helpful initiative to help accomplish that. So with that, I ask for your favorable consideration as well. I yield the well.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? Chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 402 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of House Bill 402, the ayes are 166, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 421. House Bill 421.
House Bill 421 by Representative Nimmer the 178th, Coomer the 14th, Dickey the 140th, Rogers of the 10th. An act to amend Code Section 47-2-221 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to disability allowances payable to personnel for certain disabilities arising in the line of duty. This bill has been assigned to the Committee on Retirement. The same recommends that this bill do pass by substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Nimmer to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring before you this morning House Bill 421. This bill helps to clarify and make sure that we don't have any employees that were formerly a part of Pardons, Paroles, or Department of Corrections that last year this body renamed and merged together for Department of Community Supervision. This bill does not change any of the benefits allowed for disability applicants. It does not have a fiscal impact to it at all. This bill simply adds into code Department of Community Supervision for the cover of these employees. Mr. Speaker, that's the bill. If there are any questions, I'll be happy to yield.
You have no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask for your favorable consideration.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 421 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, clerk will lock the machine. On the passage of House Bill 421, the ayes are 165, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 801. House Bill 801.
House Bill 801 by Representative Jones, the 47th, Dickey, the 148th, Nimmer, the 178th, Rogers, the 10th, Burns, the 159th, and others. To be titled an act to amend Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to education so as to revise various provisions regarding the Hope Scholarship. This bill having been assigned to the Committee on Higher Education, the committee recommends that this bill pass by substitute.
Chair recognizes the Speaker Pro Tem to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I'd like to ask your favorable consideration of House Bill 801, which refines the Hope Scholarship program to reward Georgia in-state college students for taking rigorous science, technology, engineering, and math courses. Specifically, the legislation authorizes the Board of Regents to select bachelor level science, technology, engineering, and math courses to receive extra weight for purposes of calculating the Hope Scholarship GPA while a student attends college. The identified core and major courses must be determined in the legislation to be academically rigorous and required by or lead to jobs in high-demand STEM fields. As an example, of the fields specifically in Georgia requiring a bachelor's degree or a postgraduate degree that have current and projected 10-year high workforce shortages, almost all are in healthcare, computer science, and engineering. In that regard, I do think it's important that we encourage our young people to develop the 21st century skills that will allow them to be employed in these high-demand fields. I will say that I came up with the idea and drew inspiration from Governor Nathan Deal's earlier creation of the Strategic Industries Workforce Grants, which reward students entering high-demand programs offered by state technical colleges. Similarly, this legislation will encourage students attending our public and private colleges to enter STEM fields in which Georgia has a workforce shortage. Under the legislation, a student completing a class selected for extra weight would receive 0.5 added to his or her grade for purposes of calculating the Hope Scholarship GPA. No extra weight would be given for an A or an F, and this is consistent with how current Hope weighting is given at the high school level for AP, IB, and dual enrollment courses. As an example, the regents could select calculus and chemistry and engineering courses to qualify for extra weight because these courses are required for certain STEM majors and as prerequisites for postgraduate degrees, specifically with calculus and chemistry in healthcare, such as a doctorate of physical therapy, a doctorate of physician's assistant, or dentistry. In summary, what this section of the bill is designed to do is to provide additional GPA weight to encourage students to shoulder the additional academic risk of losing the Hope Scholarship that is inherent in demanding STEM courses. It does afford the regents the necessary flexibility to make changes in the courses that qualify for additional weight to meet the workforce needs of a future and dynamic economy. There are two other aspects that I added in committee to provide transparency and a measure of accountability by requiring the Student Finance Commission to provide a biennial report to the committees on higher education in the Senate and the House on what are the specific high demand fields, what are the workforce shortages, how the courses that are identified are rigorous, and their relevance to these fields. It also authorizes the governor to establish a task force to look at these workforce shortages and to identify the first courses, the initial courses to be included. That's Section 2. Separately in Section 1, it adds computer science to the list of courses allowed to count for rigor in high school to qualify for the Hope Scholarship. And lastly, in Section 3, it clarifies the tuition reimbursement to assure it remains current and accurate and that changes in mission and consolidations are accommodated. It is not required, but the governor and I agreed to make it clearer in law. I would be happy to answer any questions, Mr. Speaker.
You have a question if you care to yield.
I do.
Chair recognizes Representative Dickey to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the lady yield?
Yes, I do.
Is it not true that the governor's floor leaders, three of us signed onto this bill, thinking it's imperative, important that state have a highly qualified workforce in the areas of STEM?
That is accurate. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a very good bill.
I do ask for your favorable consideration of House Bill 801. Thank you.
Lady has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 801 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 801. The ayes are 167, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 690.
House Bill 690 by Representative Carter, the 175th, to be entitled an act to amend Part 5 of Article 8 of Chapter 2 of Title 47 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to membership of certain law enforcement officers in the Employees Retirement System of Georgia. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Retirement, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chair recognizes Chairman Carter to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I bring before you House Bill 690. What this bill does is it allows agents, law enforcement officers from 5 different agencies, and they are the Uniform Division of the Department of Public Safety, any conservation ranger of the Department of Natural Resources, any officer or agent of the GBI, any district attorney investigator, and any alcohol and tobacco officer or agent of the Department of Revenue. Those agents, those law enforcement officers, if he or she worked at a local law enforcement agency for up to 5 years and becomes vested in the state of Georgia for 10 years, may buy the retirement years so that it will go towards ERS after being vested again, and if only there is no retirement option at the local law enforcement agency. So we're talking about post-certified law enforcement agents and those who've only have been there in the ERS system for 10 years or longer, and it's $0 to the state. They pay the person would pay the full actuarial cost of buying into the retirement. Mr. Speaker, if there are no questions, I will yield the well.
You have no questions.
Thank you. I appreciate your favorable consideration.
Lady has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 690 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. On the passage of House Bill 690, the ayes are 162, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 691. House Bill 691.
House Bill 691 by Representative Tanner, the 9th, Willard of the 51st, Welch, the 110th, Caldwell, the 131st, and others. To be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 32 of Title 36 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated, relating to municipal courts generally, so as to provide the removal of appointed municipal court judges under certain circumstances. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Judiciary, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by substitute.
Chair recognizes Representative Tanner to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I come before you today to ask for favorable consideration of 691. This piece of legislation was dropped and introduced last session, toward the end of session, and we did that specifically to try to have a conversation over the summer and fall on this issue with GMA and the Municipal Court Judges Association. We had numerous meetings over the interim, having different conversations, and during the committee process in Judiciary Committee, GMA was able to testify that they supported the legislation along with the municipal court judges. So we felt good that we were able to get an agreement between these two entities. I think it's important that we have a separation of powers in our state. Our U.S. Constitution, our Georgia Constitution, separates judicial branch from the executive branch so that the judicial branch can be independent and not be dictated by the executive branch or the legislative branch of government for a reason. In this particular legislation, we define a term for a municipal court judge. They're the only judge in our state that's appointed and hired by and answer to another branch of government. All the other judges work for either the people directly or the judicial branch. This particular legislation would define there will be a minimum term of 1 year. That term can be set out in a contract between the judge and the city. It could be through a local ordinance, or it could be through the city's charter. Once that judge is hired and placed on the bench, if they are to be removed from office, any member of the governing authority can initiate that process in writing. There would be a city council meeting at that point, and through a majority vote, if they find adverse impact, they can suspend the judge for a period up to 60 days while the process takes place. If the judge is removed or suspended, or if the council believes there is cause to move forward, they would give the judge a list of the charges in writing at least 10 days prior to the removal hearing. At the removal hearing, they would present their evidence and information, and then the council or the governing authority would vote, and they would have to vote to remove the judge with 2/3 vote of the council. And the terms of that removal is laid out in the legislation. It also states that the municipality may define in its charter further conduct which would lead to a judge's removal. So the city, through their charter process, could go further and define additional information that could be considered for removal of a judge if they deem necessary. At the end of the term set forward, there is no obligation by the city or the judge to continue the mutual agreement. They can renew the contract. They can terminate the judge at that point with no obligation or no other requirements. During the process where the judge may be suspended pending the outcome of the hearing, the council may, for a period not to exceed 90 days, may hire a temporary judge to take that spot. Mr. Speaker, with that, I'd ask for favorable consideration of this legislation. It's been worked on for a year, supported by the municipal court judges, and testimony in the Judiciary Committee that GMA also supports this legislation. I'd be glad to yield for questions.
You have no questions.
I ask for favorable consideration of HB 691. I yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on House Bill 691? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? The chair hears none. The committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 691 will vote aye. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 691. The ayes are 155, the nays are 11. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. The chair will postpone House Bill 815 until the next legislative day to allow time for an amendment to be considered. Clerk will read the caption to a group of privileged resolutions.
Recognizing, commending Mr. Zuber Malik. Honoring the life and memory of Mrs. Maurice Collins. Recognizing the need for more recess time. Honoring the life and memory of Mr. Edward J. Davis. Recognizing, commending the members of the St. Patrick's Day Parade Committee, Chairman Jerry Hogan Jr. and the Grand Marshal of 2016 St. Patrick's Day Parade on the upcoming occasion of 2016 St. Patrick's Day Parade in Savannah, Georgia. Honoring the Georgia High School Fencing League and its member teams. Commending police chiefs and other heads of law enforcement agencies in the state, and recognizing Monday, February 15, 2016 as Police Chiefs and Heads of Law Enforcement Agency Recognition Day at the Capitol. Recognizing, commending Christian Reese. Recognizing February 18, 2016 as Carroll County Day at the State Capitol. Recognizing the annual Cordell Crisp County Fish Fry, and commending Mr. Royce Reeves, Mr. Clark Henderson, Mr. Rusty Slade, Mr. Ron Cruz, and the Cordell Crisp County Fish Fry Cooking Team. Recognizing, commending Sarah Cleland on being honored with the Girl Scout Gold Award. Recognizing, commending Peyton Ledford upon being honored with the Girl Scout Gold Award. Commending the student leaders at the University of Georgia, and recognizing February 9, 2016 as University of Georgia Day at the State Capitol. Recognizing March 6 through 12, 2016 as School Social Workers Association of Georgia, Inc. Week, and for other purposes. That completes the reading of the privileged resolutions.
Is there any objection to adopting the privilege resolutions? The chair hears none, and the resolutions are adopted. If you have an announcement and have not signed up, the time to do so is now. We will be doing page photographs at the rostrum immediately upon adjournment. The chair recognizes this House will be in order. We have a little bit of business yet to do. Chair recognizes for an announcement Chairman Battles. Chairman Battles.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have two announcements. Number one, this evening, from 5 to 7 in the Sloppy Floyd building, this is the GSRA, the Georgia Retirement Association, is having a reception, and they invite you to come and be a part of that. I'm sure all of us have constituents in our district that are a part of this, so you might want to go over and see them from 5 to 7. The other thing is at 2 o'clock this afternoon in 5:15, we'll be having a retirement committee, and we have about 5 bills to consider. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the Minority Leader of the House, Leader Abrams, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have two announcements. I would ask the members of the Kinship Care Study Committee to meet up front immediately upon adjournment to review some pieces of legislation, and would also like to remind the members of the Democratic Caucus, the Minority Caucus, that the national popular vote discussion will be held upon adjournment in room 514. We will be in the LOB. We will be serving lunch. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes the Chairman of the Economic Development and Tourism Committee, Chairman Stevens, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Joint House and Senate Economic Development and Tourism we'll have a dinner tonight at 6 o'clock at the Delta Flight Museum. If you'll please RSVP, make sure when you do that you do it with the name that's on your driver's license. You'll need that to get into the gate for security reasons. Also, please mark your calendar for February the 18th as we tour and dinner Eagle Rock Studios with an active movie going on there, and also February 22nd at Pinewood Studios. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes for an announcement the Chair of the Natural Resources and Environment Committee, Chairman Smith.
Good morning. Thank you. This is an announcement for our Natural Resources and Environment Committee meeting tomorrow morning, 8 o'clock, 606 CLOB. Hope to see you there. Thank you.
Chair recognizes for an announcement Representative Clark. Representative Valerie Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, it's time for the most exciting subcommittee in America. We have the Subcommittee on Academic Innovations at 1 p.m. and 506 CLOB.
Chair recognizes for an announcement the Chair of MARTOC, Chairman Tom Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This afternoon at 3 o'clock in front of the club, Chairman Coomer, Chairman Parsons, and myself will have the first long-range battery-powered electric bus out there. As we look at furthering transit, this is a bus that basically runs on a very high-tech, non-toxic battery and can do 161 miles on one charge. Like I said, we move forward on transit. This is kind of neat. We'll be taking some laps around the Capitol in it, so it's not like the fur bus for the party thing, but if you want to come at 3 o'clock, you can take a couple laps around the block with that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes for an announcement Chairman Jaspers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House Special Rules Committee will meet today at 3 o'clock in room 515. I look forward to seeing you there.
Chair recognizes for an announcement the Chair of the Governmental Affairs Committee, Chairman Reinders.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There'll be a full Committee of Governmental Affairs today at 1:30. We've probably got a half a dozen bills or so. 6:06 of the club, 1:30. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes for an announcement the Chair of the Science and Technology Committee, Chairman Setzler.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the Setzler Subcommittee of Non-Civil Judiciary, we have a hearing today at 1:30 in room 132 here in the Capitol. We're taking up HB 770, HB 744, and HB 845. You should have a notice, but we will be meeting at 1:30 in room 132.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the House Education Committee, Chairman Coleman, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of the House Education Committee today at 3 o'clock. Room 606, very, very important meeting. Please come over. We'll be taking up 3 very important bills, and we'd love to see all of you there. Thank you. 3 o'clock, 606, CLOB.
Chair recognizes the Chair of the Industry and Labor Committee, Chairman Shaw, for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Rural Caucus will meet today after we adjourn across the street at the Department of Agriculture. Thank you.
There being no further announcements, the Chair recognizes the Majority Leader of the House for a motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move that this House stand adjourned until tomorrow morning, Thursday, February the 4th, at 10 a.m., 2016.
The Majority Leader has moved that this House be adjourned until Thursday, February 4 at 10 a.m. All those in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it. This House will be adjourned until Thursday, February 4 at 10 a.m.